Welcome back to Sprague Homestead. So today we're jumping back into our 2020 Homesteader collaboration with other YouTubers. This week we're sharing time with the Branscum Farm. Now they are a smaller farm out of Arkansas, and they are one of our viewers. So we're thankful that they are taking the time to join us this week, and we'll jump right into the usual questions. So question one is, what is the biggest mistake new homesteaders make?
I would have to say that the biggest mistake that I know a lot of the homesteaders that we know have made and that we have made is trying to go too big too fast. Mm-hmm. You need to set a goal, an easily attainable goal, and take it in baby steps, one step at a time.
Yes, I agree. I think even with our experiences, if you're not ready for an animal, don't get it just because you think it's cute and a good idea.
I think that's a great answer, and I think that's pretty much what everybody else has said so far too, that we've done these collaborations with, is too much too soon. We're all guilty of it, right? At least on occasion. Even now, I'm a little guilty of this. I'm trying to do too much this year too soon, I think. But yeah, I mean, good answer. I think that's pretty common.
I think it's been the answer from everybody, is that we need to slow down and really enjoy homesteading versus the crash course of getting everything and not really making any of it work because you're trying to do too much.
Yeah, that's super frustrating for sure.
All right, so question two, what advice would you give to new homesteaders?
I say make sure you research what you want to do with your homestead, see the cost in it, what all equipment you need, make sure you have the even the land to have those animals or whatever you want to do.
You should also reach out to people in your area that have done what you're looking to do. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, there are lots of people out there that have done. You're not the first to get the idea to do something. So yeah, reaching out on top of doing your own research, reaching out to people and finding out what kind of obstacles they faced and what their solutions were is definitely a good idea. I
think that's some really good sound advice. I would say the only thing I would say against research is that don't fall into the trap that you have to exhaustively research anything before you get started. Sometimes everything you can read about everything only works for the person that is giving the information out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll find doing it their way may or may not work for you. So I would say do some research. Don't go in blind, but don't spend all day looking online for the answer, and it may not even work for you.
I like his part about saying that find somebody local to you that has done what you're trying to do. I think that's huge. We've got an influx of people coming into the Sprague River area that is trying to do stuff the way Joel Salatin and some of these other people do. We do not have anywhere close to the same soil, growing conditions, plant species, any of it. So while I think the ideas are sound, you can't take something that works in Virginia and move it to Southern Oregon and think that you're going to get the same thing. So finding somebody local to you, such a great piece of advice.
All right, so question three, what is your favorite animal that you've ever raised on your homestead?
I'm going to go with probably rabbits, since that's pretty much all we do. We attempted chickens, and even though we still have a few, things just haven't really worked out with those. And yeah, where we're located at, it's just not ideal for chickens because we just don't have the space.
Yeah, I definitely like the rabbits.
Well, that's too bad that you guys can't make chickens work where you are, but rabbits for the win.
I'm gonna find different homesteaders that don't have rabbits. Seems like everybody has rabbits.
Well, people who actually participate in stuff with us, yes.
Yeah, probably so.
Rabbits rock.
Rabbits for the win. All right, so question four, what is your favorite vegetable, or what is the favorite vegetable you've ever grown on your homestead?
Well, I just really like tomatoes, even though the last couple of gardens we've had really bad luck with. One squirrels got into our first one, and it was, even though we had a lot of growing out stuff, it all ended up devoured before we could get it off the vine. But yeah, I really like tomatoes, so that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. I'll probably go with the squash or the cucumbers, just because they did really good, and we had plenty, and there was lots of recipes I looked up for the squash, and I just really like eating cucumbers just as they are.
I can totally identify with that whole squirrel thing. I had ground squirrels, which are the shorter-tailed, burrowing cousins of regular squirrels, just obliterate me. What, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Nothing is more sad than when you've nursed a garden along and it looks great, and you go out and it's just eaten. Like,
Yeah.
you'd think that a pepper plant was okay, and you'd walk over to it, and then you'd realize it was chewed off and it just hadn't fallen over yet. Talk about devastating. But I'm totally with you on the tomato front. Squash, I have a love-hate relationship with. I plant some, it gets out of control, and by about August, I don't even want to look at a squash again. Mm-hmm. And cucumbers here, 1 year they'll be great, and the next year they'll be terrible. I got enough to do a couple batches of pickles last year, so it was enough. But yeah, good choices on vegetables.
Definitely. All right, so question 5. What has been your favorite or your best day on your homestead?
Mine was probably when we brought the rabbits home, the first rabbits we had.
Yeah, I figure actually for her, it was probably the first batch of babies that we had. Because she tried, when we first got started, it was really difficult to get a pregnancy to take. And when we finally got one to take, after a while, and she got that first batch of babies, she was just super excited.
That was exciting. A baby's being born is still exciting every time.
Do you want me to gloat here and say rabbits for the win again?
I don't know. I can say that the excitement of rabbits being born, I think for me, now granted I'm not a rabbit guy, is definitely worn off. I think the fact that what did you say? We had 20 currently right now of litters.
Yeah, we're around 20.
Yeah, so
we've lost a whole bunch of litters this year out of does that just aren't getting it, unfortunately. But
yeah. I think that initial thing though of getting the very first one, bringing them home, it's exciting. I think I can agree with that. It's exciting.
Well, I like what she said, that whenever babies are born. I mean, like right now we are anticipating the first goat kids of the year, and we didn't have any last year, so it's been basically 2 years since we've kidded.
Yeah.
And they're due any day, and I'm so excited for the first baby goats of the year.
That's true, because then when I go out and do morning chores, I'm checking every doe to see how they're doing in that.
He loves baby goats.
And I walk in there and I'm thinking, is this the day? Do I get to see the first goat kids of the day? I think we have a farm pool going to see who it's going to be, and I think we've got maybe 1 or 2 that are maybe going to be the ones to give us the first
either
kids.
Callie or Arya.
So we'll see. It'll be that day though, and I'll be excited for goat kids. Okay, so question 6. What has been your worst day on your current homestead?
This goes back to our garden that we did really well on our first garden, and it was so big and everything was growing, it was doing so great, and then we had squirrels just annihilated it, like wiped it out in like a week, didn't even have a chance. I work all over the state. I wasn't home really to deal with it, and
It was sad.
yeah, so we just got decimated, and we were really looking forward to it because we had all these good-looking vegetables and stuff growing.
Yeah.
So, which it was a small garden, so just losing half of it was like losing pretty much the whole thing.
Mine was probably the first time one of the rabbits died. Probably when Spotty died, because that was really hard to tell Carly, because that was her pet, and I bottle fed that rabbit too, so that was kind of rough.
I've got to agree that losing any animals is always, it takes a little bit of the thunder out of it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
There's been some losses around here. Now, we've been doing this for a while, and we raise a lot of animals, so death is part of it. But there are always some that knock you back on your heels a little bit. We had one recently. We were in feeding and watering, and we had a harlequin doe. We don't even know what startled her, but she basically jumped around and either broke her neck or had a heart attack in the barn while we were at the other end. It's only a 20-foot barn. And, yeah, killed her. I had just fed her and watered her. And, like, within 3-4 minutes, she was dead. Something startled her.
Yeah.
We don't know if it was one of the dogs running out back. a cat running out back. We don't know what it was, but something startled her, and she jumped across the pen and went crazy for just a split second. And I'm not sure what it was, but either way,
That was a tough one that night.
I had just sent paperwork off to Grand Champion out that rabbit too. And she's one of the last ones I had gotten from a good friend that quit raising rabbits. And so that was a tough one. And you get some tough ones, but yeah, it's no fun.
Yeah.
And like I said, that garden thing, totally feel your pain.
Yep.
To this day, I kill every garden or ground squirrel I can get. Every single one. Like, there's a vendetta going on here.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So the next question: why do you homestead where you are?
Pretty much because it's where we live. We bought this house several years back, and we're just not in a financial place to where we could go buy a farm and set it up the way we'd really like to. It is a dream of ours one day, but right now we're just doing it here because that's what we got to do. I wouldn't really call it homesteading so much as, we have a rabbitry, we grow our own vegetables and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why we do it here. It's because this is what financially we have to.
Yeah. And I think, also both of us grew up here. We were high school sweethearts, so we live where we live because that's where both of our families are.
And that helps a lot with getting the kids watched and stuff like that.
So I think on this one, I'm going to disagree that having a small rabbitry and a garden is not homesteading. I think it's the absolute definition of homesteading. And being from there with family local is probably a fantastic setup and arrangement. Just having that support network to be able to do things, whether you want a night out together or you need something for any reason, having a support structure or a family local is a huge part of it. I mean, it helps us out tremendously that Nikki's parents live, a couple miles up the road. I mean, they lean on us, we lean on them, and it's a huge win for both of us being so close.
And that is why we're here.
Right.
Because we were in Mississippi and we've lived in Tennessee, but that is why we're back in Oregon, is because my family is here.
Right. So I think that's a good answer, but I disagree that you don't think it's homesteading, because I think it's exactly homesteading. You're doing the right things with it.
Yeah, you're doing some kind of self-sufficiency and some kind of sustainability right where you are. I mean, that's kind of what the whole goal is. So don't let the idea that you're on a small piece of property hold you back.
Right. Exactly. Question 8. What is your favorite tool that you use on the homestead?
Well, the most valuable, even though it's one of the cheapest, was probably a set of J-clip pliers, because that allowed us to build our own cages. So it's really, without those, it would have been rough trying to build our own cages.
Yeah.
So, and it's a really simple tool, just a simple pair of pliers that crimp J-clips.
Mine's probably the tattoo pen or the scales I use to weigh the rabbits. Those are what I use, all the time. I definitely like that we got the tattoo pen versus the clamps for the tattooing, because that was a lot more difficult, and the tattoo pen makes it easier for me to tattoo the rabbits for show.
Now, before she gets going, I'm just going to throw it out there. Rabbits for the win. I already got it.
I wasn't even going to say it. They mostly do rabbits, so it's.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with the idea of a really good set of J-clip pliers. I've had some really cheap knockoff ones that were horrible, and I can't remember where I got my really good ones, but they are worth their weight in gold, especially when you're putting a lot of cages together. And definitely agree on the tattoo pin as well. A friend of mine has a clamp. She's a registrar, so when I was deciding what I wanted to get, because I've got another friend who just clamps, I went over and I got the instruction on both, and man, I can't. In theory, it's easier with the clamp, but I don't know. The first time she showed me how to do one, and it was really good, sharp new pins, and it went all the way through the ear, and the rabbit screamed. I was done.
Yeah.
Done. Because, the pen doesn't hurt near as much. You can use the numbing stuff if you want, and it's not a big deal. They don't really advise that you use the numbing spray with the clamp, just because it can screw up getting the ink in. So I agree. Pen, definitely the better way to go.
Yeah, and we have a pretty good system. We've kind of honed it down to where we can very quickly tattoo a good amount of rabbits because we have a system that both of us can, I guess each of us has our parts to it, and we can efficiently get through a bunch of rabbits. So a pen is definitely a good piece to get once you get started on everything.
Yeah, and you're never worried about it getting stuck on the ear or
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. Ugh. Yeah.
All right, so the next question on the list. How did you guys actually get started homesteading?
Well, this is actually, and I might as well tell this story. We got started in the rabbitry business because I was mowing the lawn and I got into a den of wild rabbits. And I don't know where the mom ended up. I'm pretty sure she never came back. But there was one survivor. And we brought it in and we tried to keep it alive. And it was actually doing pretty well. And then it just up and died. You know, and it made my wife really sad, and it kind of got us on the idea of, well, we could, raise rabbits. I mean, I like eating rabbit. So, I was like, we could raise rabbits, you could do rabbit shows, we could, and so that's just how it kind of kicked off,
Yeah.
So, and now we have 1 million rabbits. It's an exaggeration, but only by a little.
It was actually his idea to do the meat rabbit, so he blames me for having and being addicted to all these rabbits, but...
Well, she is the one that's addicted.
It was his idea to get them in the first place.
Yeah, that's kind of common with wild rabbits. We actually had some when I was a kid, too, that I want to say my uncle's hunting dog found a little warren of them and brought them in. And, yeah, we kept them alive for a couple of days anyway, but what usually happens is they stress, and wild rabbits are so full of parasites and disease a lot of times that they just don't make it. But well, it's great that it inspired you to get going, though, and it sounds like you guys are really enjoying the rabbits.
Exactly. All right, so next question. What is your ideal homestead size, in your opinion?
Well, I grew up on 20 acres with my family, and so I think that would be more than enough land. I enjoyed that. Our house was in the middle, and then we had all the land around us, and we were pretty much able to do anything we wanted. My dad had a garden. My grandparents gardened. I don't know if we really have very many animals besides dogs, but it was enough area for us to play as kids, and I'd like that for my kids because we're kind of in a subdivision and they don't really have a whole bunch of area to go like run and play.
Yeah. Pretty much anything bigger than what we have right now.
I think 20 acres is plenty. I mean, really, it's 20 acres of desert is going to be tough to have. You might want 1,000 or something, but 20 acres in a really good growing area like Arkansas could be, it could be too much. If you could grow so much so well that it could just flat be too much to keep up with.
Well, we had 12 acres in Tennessee and we had 10 acres in Mississippi. And yeah, we had enough room to do anything we wanted, but boy, keeping up with things like yard maintenance and weeds and some of that was kind of a pain, but
yeah,
I definitely agree. I grew up on different sizes of acreage. We move from time to time, but I definitely agree getting your kids out and letting them run and play outside is huge. Not a lot of kids get to do that anymore,
right,
unfortunately, and I think it's starting to really show.
Yeah, it is. All right, so the next question, what is your growing zone and what challenges do you face there?
So we are in 4B. We're in Arkansas, so it's like, depending on, we're kind of like on the border of 4B, I guess, but that's what I go by. And I would say probably the biggest struggle is we have lots of rain in the springtime, and it makes it hard to kind of, if you're doing an in-ground garden, to get it tilled up and get it ready. And then as soon as the rain stops and it becomes summer, it's just 100 degrees plus beaten hot, and then everything dies. So it's kind of difficult in that sense. But that's not every year. That was the last few years though. That's why I like the raised beds. It makes it a lot easier.
The biggest difficulty we face with those are squirrels and foragers.
And our dogs.
The neighborhood we live in, well, dogs aren't so much of a problem now, but the neighborhood we live in is just chock full of squirrels. And so once they find it, it's just a battle.
And they're fat. Like, I saw a squirrel have a full-size tomato this big, and it was carrying it up the tree to its little den, and I was like, how is it carrying that? It's bigger than the squirrel.
So you guys are actually in a little bit tougher spot even than we are, because we are like 5B. We don't get the torrential rains. I mean, it sounds like it's a lot similar to Mississippi, other than you guys probably get snow and actually get cold up there. I totally agree. That's why we did raised beds out there too. It was like in the spring, the ground never dried out enough to do anything with. And then when it did, it was 1,000 degrees and the humidity was so high that it was miserable to try and keep moist enough to grow anything. So I totally can appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we did pretty well when we could tag team the garden there in Mississippi, but I know the last year when she was here in Oregon and I was in Mississippi trying to keep the garden going, I couldn't keep it wet enough because I could only water it after I got home from work, kind of getting towards sundown, and it just would evaporate it off and just flat kill it during the day because it was so darn hot. I just couldn't keep up with it.
The only way I could keep tomatoes going down there, especially in July and August, was to water twice a day.
Yeah.
That was the only way to keep them alive. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's either, we were the same way there, either too much rain or not enough.
All right, so question 12. What is your least favorite farm chore that you have to do?
I don't know, I do most of them, but he does help me a lot when I'm gone.
The least favorite would definitely be dealing with the massive amount of droppings that you deal with when you have rabbits raised up off the ground. So like shoveling, getting all those little rabbit turds out.
Yeah.
That's a mess. It can be. So if you stay on top of it, it's not so bad. But if you let it go, if you have to be out of town for a week or something like that, then it can really get crazy.
Pile up.
Yeah.
The poop
Literally.
piles. My least favorite would be definitely dealing with the water bottles in the winter time when it's freezing. Luckily where we are, that's only maybe a couple of weeks or so, and then out of the winter. But still doing all the water bottles, even in the summer, is a chore. It's a pain.
I think we'd both agree with the whole cleaning thing. My rabbits are in stackers, so I have drop pans, and it's the same way. I mean, we try and get to them once a week, but if the weather's bad, especially in the winter, if the weather's bad, sometimes you've got so much snow, it's hard to get them out and get them dumped. That's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
And the water bottles, when they freeze, I totally agree with. We try and short water them and just water them like twice a day, or go to Crocs because I just can't deal with frozen bottles.
It is tough.
It's terrible.
But I think even scooping with a shovel is kind of, I won't want to be punny, but I will and say it's crappy. But I mean, I've been cleaning the goat barns this week, or at least getting one of them done, getting prepared for kidding season, and it's something that has to be done. But it's not my favorite thing to do. I don't despise it, but it's pretty darn close to that. I can't. I hate doing it, but it's definitely a needed evil, I guess you'd say.
But all of that turns into garden gold.
I know. It helps grow everything else. So, all right. So, question 13: what content creators would you like to work with in 2020?
So this is more probably a question for me, since he does most of the editing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he even watches YouTube.
Watch some stuff.
But I would like to work with some of the people around here in Arkansas that I've came in contact with, like the Haskins family blog. I talk to them quite often anyways. Pine Knot Family Farm, they're here in Arkansas also, that I like to talk to them. Maybe Homestead Homemaker, Lindsay's down in Benton, so maybe somewhere close that we can do collaborations, or maybe not even collaborations, just get to know each other and help each other out and things like that.
So on these three, I think just having a local support group in homesteading is good, but having homestead YouTubers that are similar is pretty awesome too. I know on the car stuff I do for my own stuff, having people that are car people and YouTubers kind of adds an extra layer of, I guess, a small network, because everybody faces similar problems, and I will say as a content creator, a lot of times it's hard to find other people that I guess want to collaborate and want to work together with. So I hope the 3 that you listed, I will definitely put some links down in the description for their channels. Hopefully you guys can get together and just maybe do farm tours, talk together. It's just an extra benefit of creating content but being homesteaders, and you guys can share maybe behind the scenes that nobody else gets to see. That's the kind of the cool part.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of homesteaders on YouTube near us, though.
We don't.
Most of them are in the I-5 Valley and up north towards Portland and Salem and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on our own.
All right, so question 14. What is the worst job you've ever had?
For me, that would probably be Sonic, and that was mostly because I was a kid, and the people there just kind of were difficult. And not saying that it was just a terrible job, but it was just, I don't want to say terrible people, but yeah, terrible people.
I'd probably have to say fast food in general. I worked at Sonic with him. I worked at Red Lobster. Anything that requires you to work with food and people are not going to be satisfied. And it's a very high-stressed, low-paying job.
I gotta agree. I worked fast food a few times. I worked retail. And yeah, it's I totally agree with what you're saying about people are never satisfied. The number of people I saw freak out when I worked at McDonald's over, too much salt, not enough salt, not happy with their burger. It's come on. I mean, we were making that way back. I was on the higher end of the pay scale at $7 an hour, and I was just like, "You paid $1 for that burger, man." I'm not saying I don't care, but 7 hours into a shift, and you're not the first person that screamed at me today. I don't care. I just don't.
No. I can say the only job I've ever had in fast food was I worked at Dairy Queen when I was 16. It was my very first job. It was a summer job. Had a lot of fun, had some good people, but yeah, you would not believe how much people would freak out over an ice cream cone.
Yeah. No,
So-
actually, they probably would.
Yeah, so
They
there you
were
go.
Sonic.
It's ice cream. Everybody should be happy. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. No, you scream at the little kid behind the counter. Still got scars.
I worked at McDonald's, so we never had our ice cream never worked. I don't know. I don't even know that the machine was functional. It never worked. The few times that it did work were always the time you came by and I got your ice cream, but almost never worked.
All right, so last question of this series. What kind of power do you have currently, and if you could change, what would it be?
Well, we're currently on city power. I mean, we live in a subdivision, and so we get our energy, and we do gas for our stove and our water heater. Honestly, it is very convenient.
Yeah.
Even if the power goes out, you can still cook and take hot baths because we have gas on those sides. So really, I wouldn't want to change up our setup too much. And if all else fails, we have a fireplace that we can burn wood heat. So I mean, if you look at all of our options,
And solar in Arkansas is not really an option. There's no
solar's
benefit to having solar. It costs way more in the upfront. You would never pay it off.
You would die of old age before it actually paid for
Yes.
itself.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's established enough yet to really be a mainstream option, especially when it's cheaper and more efficient for us to use the city electric.
Yeah. And anywhere we would move, like if we built a house, even on his parents' property, there's established power there. So it wouldn't be a big cost to bring in.
I could see the benefit of adding a backup generator for if the power went down for an extended amount of time, but that rarely happens here in Arkansas.
Yeah. I mean, even if we don't really have snow. If we have ice, it's maybe a week. And I mean, you can go without power for a week
As long as you have wood burning heat.
So you don't really have to worry about that.
Well, I gotta admit, I'm a little envious because when we lived in Mississippi, it was always out.
Yeah.
Always out. But if you're not having any problems, solar tends to not be worth the expense and the hassle of it if you're really not having any issues. For us, we don't have any choice but to be on off-grid here. Can't get power in here. And honestly, after living in Mississippi for 9-10 years and the power being out all the time, it's so nice to have control over it here and not be out of power unless
Yeah.
it's something we screwed up.
Well,
So-
and if we screwed it up, it's a major problem. But we had similar stuff in Tennessee too. And I will say,
yeah.
if you guys really aren't having any problem and you wanted to decrease your demand or your payout, I mean, I would do a hybrid system of, you know, you have panels in that feed into the system, or you have some kind of a backup. But there's no reason to just completely shut off the power that comes into the house now if you're not really having a problem. There's ways to modify it, but there again, it may never pay it back. And if you eventually want to move to a bigger piece of property or something, there's probably no reason to make that investment because it probably isn't going to pay you back on the back end either.
Too true.
All right, so that is the 15 questions with the Branscum Farm. And I want to say thank you to both of them for taking time to answer our questions for our collaboration this year. If you would like to be part of the collaboration, let us know. Drop us a comment or leave us a message. And remember, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can find us all there pretty easily. And that's it for this time on Sprague Homestead. We'll see you next time.
Happy homesteading!